Welcome back to another deep dive, everybody. Today, we're going to be taking a look at AI. Okay. Specifically, this new language model called Orca 2. Have you heard about this?
I have, yeah. It's been making a quite a splash in the research community.
Yeah, it seems like it's designed to think more cautiously, strategically, kind of like a person would.
Yeah, exactly. More human-like reasoning. That's the core idea they're going for.
So I actually skimmed some of the research on this, prepped for our deep dive here.
Okay.
I got to say, pretty dense stuff.
It's definitely a lot to unpack.
Yeah, thankfully we've got you here to help us break it all down. But before we get into the weeds of it all, I got to ask,
Sure.
why should the average person care about this? Like someone who isn't, building the next generation of AI chatbots. Why does this matter?
That's a great question. Well, think about it. AI is already everywhere, right? It's in the suggestions you get online, the way you search for information, even in things you might not even realize.
It's true.
So understanding how researchers are trying to make AI more, I guess you could say, human in its reasoning,
Right.
that's going to have huge implications for all of us.
Okay, I'm starting to see where you're going with this. So,
Yeah.
so how are they making this Orca 2 so thoughtful? What's the secret sauce?
Well, one of the key things they're doing is something called explanation tuning.
Explanation tuning.
Yeah.
Okay, that sounds kind of interesting, but I have no idea what that means.
Well, imagine, instead of just telling someone the answer to a problem, you walk them through the why, the logic, the steps involved.
Okay.
You're not just giving the what, you're giving the how.
So it's like showing your work on a math test instead of just writing down the answer.
Exactly. It's not just about mimicking the right answer. It's about teaching the AI to actually think critically
Okay.
and choose the best strategy
I like that.
for each problem.
So it's less about memorizing and more about actual understanding.
Exactly. It's it's a more human way of learning.
That's really interesting.
Mhm.
And speaking of more human ways of learning, I was looking through the research and I noticed they kept mentioning these slow thinking strategies.
Right, right.
So does this mean that AI is finally learning to procrastinate just like the rest of us? Because I am very good at that.
Well, not exactly procrastinating, but it is about a more deliberate,
Oh,
step-by-step way of solving problems.
okay.
Kind of like when we humans tackle something complex.
I see.
We don't just magically know the answer. We got to think it through step by step.
So give me an example of this slow thinking in action.
Yeah.
How is Orca 2 actually thinking through these problems?
Sure. So in the research, they give this example using an SAT math problem.
Okay, yeah.
And you can actually see how Orca 2 breaks the problem down into these smaller, more manageable steps, just like a human would.
So we're actually getting a glimpse into, the AI's thought process.
Yeah. It's not just this black box spitting out an answer anymore. You can see the logic, the reasoning.
That's actually really cool.
It is.
Yeah.
And it's crucial for building trust in AI.
I can imagine, if AI can explain how it arrived at a conclusion, then we're more likely to accept its judgment.
Exactly. And it helps us understand the AI's limitations as well.
Oh, that's a good point. So it's not just about being right. It's about being able to explain why it's right.
Exactly. And that's something that Orca 2 is really pushing the boundaries on.
This is already blowing my mind. And we're just getting started. We're going to take a quick break, but when we come back, we'll dive even deeper into this amazing new world of AI. Stay with us.
So we're back and ready to really get into how Orca 2 actually learns.
Yeah, because we keep talking about this whole slow thinking thing.
Right.
But how do they actually make that happen? How do you teach an AI to think slowly? It all seems a little like magic to me.
Well, remember how we were talking about Orca 2 being trained on all those step-by-step explanations?
Yeah, it's showing its work.
Right. So where do you think those explanations come from?
I don't know. That's why I'm asking you.
Okay, so get this. They actually use an even more powerful AI, something like GPT-4, to create those explanations.
So it's like AI teaching AI.
Exactly. It's like having this super smart pewter creating the ultimate study guide.
Okay, so wait. Do they just feed the teacher AI a bunch of problems and say, explain this, and that's it?
Not exactly, no. They actually use these carefully designed instructions, they're called system instructions, to prompt that teacher AI to, think in those slow thinking ways.
Okay, so instead of just saying, solve this problem, they might say something like, explain your reasoning, but step by step.
Exactly. And they use a whole bunch of these different system instructions to get different kinds of explanations depending on what they're trying to teach.
So they're trying to capture all the different ways that a human expert might approach a problem.
Exactly, because there's not always just one right way to think about something.
Okay.
And they even found that, like, even GPT-4 would give different answers to the same problem depending on how they asked it.
That makes sense. It's
Yeah.
like, if I ask you to summarize a story or I ask you to list the events chronologically, I mean, those are going to be two pretty different answers,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
So Orca 2 is learning from this huge data set of questions and answers and these carefully crafted explanations.
Right.
But at some point, it has to go from mimicking the teacher to actually thinking on its own.
And that's a really good point, and that's where this really cool technique called prompt erasing comes in.
Prompt erasing.
Oh.
All right, I'm going to need you to break this down for me.
Okay, so imagine you're learning to cook by watching a chef, right?
Okay, I'm with you.
At first, you're going to follow their recipe exactly.
Of course. Got to start somewhere.
But at some point, you have to start experimenting on your own, right?
You do. Otherwise, you'd never learn.
And prompt erasing is basically like taking away the recipe
Okay.
and forcing Orca 2 to figure things out for itself.
So they'll show Orca 2 the question and the final answer, but not how to actually get there.
Exactly. No instructions, no explanations, just the problem and the solution.
So it's got to develop its own logic, its own way of getting to the answer.
Precisely. It's learning from the best, but not becoming too reliant on its teacher.
I see. So it's like, okay, I've seen how the experts do it, now let me give it a try my own way.
Exactly. And that's how it develops those independent thinking skills, even though it's, an AI.
That's so cool. It feels like we're really moving away from this, like, brute force computation into something that's closer to actual thinking, problem solving.
Yeah. Right. It's about making AI more understandable, more relatable.
Which, speaking of relatable, brings up another question.
Yeah.
How do we make sure that these AI systems, with all this sophisticated training, how do we make sure that they're not, like, learning biases from us?
Yeah, that is a huge concern.
And they're only as good as the data we feed them, right?
Exactly. And that's something that researchers are very aware of. They know that if the training data reflects existing biases, then the AI is going to learn those biases too.
So it's not just enough to teach AI to think better.
Right.
We also have to be incredibly careful about what we're teaching them.
100%. It's like raising a kid, right? You got to be mindful of the information they're exposed to.
It's a huge responsibility,
It is.
shaping these powerful technologies.
Yeah.
But it's also a huge opportunity
It is.
to create AI that's not just intelligent, but also ethical. Man, this has been amazing.
It really has.
We've gone from slow thinking to prompt erasing to AI teaching other AI. It's a lot to process.
It really is.
But before we get into all the ways this technology could change things, I think we need to give everyone a minute to digest all of this. So when we come back, we'll talk about the potential implications of Orca 2. Stay tuned.
All right. So we're back, and, diving into all this Orca 2 stuff, it really makes you think about the bigger picture here. You know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely. And it feels like we're on the edge of something really big, like this whole slow thinking thing.
Mm.
I'm really curious how that could, like, change the game when it comes to dealing with harmful content online.
Oh, yeah, that's huge.
Because that's a problem that just keeps getting bigger every day, right?
It really is, even for humans. Just the amount of content out there, it's overwhelming.
Exactly. And AI feels like it has such a big role to play in, moderating all that.
Absolutely. And this research on Orca 2 shows how effective it can be.
So instead of just flagging something as, like, potentially harmful, Orca 2 could actually explain why it thinks that.
Yeah.
Based on its training and all that.
Exactly. It can actually show its work, so to speak.
Wow.
Which is huge for transparency.
Yeah, because then the people who are moderating content can actually understand how the AI is making decisions.
Exactly. And that's only going to become more important as these systems get more complex, more integrated into everything we do online.
It's almost like we're giving the AI a voice, like a way to explain itself.
I like that. Giving AI a voice.
So it's not just like a blunt instrument.
Right.
It can actually explain its reasoning, make these really subtle distinctions.
And that's one of the things that really sets Orca 2 apart, that ability to articulate.
Yeah, that is really cool. And the researchers also talked about how you could train Orca 2 for even more specific tasks, right?
Yeah, like that example with the story reordering.
Yeah, he got so good at that and so quickly, even with just a little bit of extra training.
It's remarkable how adaptable these systems are becoming.
It's like giving it a crash course and suddenly, boom, expert story reorderer.
That's a good way to put it. And that opens up a lot of possibilities, right?
It does. Like, imagine AI that could be trained to analyze medical data or even write educational materials tailored to like individual students.
The potential is huge.
It really is. But, all this potential, it comes with some big questions too.
Of course, there are always two sides to every coin.
Like, if we can teach AI to think more like us, what does that mean for us? For humanity?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And it's one we're going to have to keep asking ourselves.
We do, because it's clear that AI is here to stay.
It is. It's not science fiction anymore.
And it's changing so fast. I mean, look at all the stuff we just talked about, and who knows what's next, right?
Exactly. That's why I think it's so important for everyone to at least have a basic understanding of how these systems work.
Totally agree. And that's what we try to do with these deep dives.
Demystify it a little.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because if we can understand AI, then we can help shape its future.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Well, on that note, I think we've done our part for today.
I think so too.
But this is just the beginning of the conversation, right?
It is. Keep those brains engaged.
Exactly. There's a whole world of AI out there to explore.
A whole world.
So until next time, keep asking those questions, keep learning, and we'll see you on the next deep dive.